The Hypnotherapist Confessions, the new self-help book by Antony Watkins, can be purchased from Amazon UK and Amazon.com in paperback and on Kindle. A summary of Chapter 1, Anxiety. Many areas of the body and the mind can be affected by anxiety. This can show in psychosomatic responses affecting particular areas of the body or particular organs. With some people, the causes may never be found, and the real problem is far deeper in their emotional past. Some symptoms of anxiety are easy to deal with, and others take time. Long-term anxiety can correlate with depression, and as time goes by, can become even more difficult to expose. Root causes of anxiety and their symptoms must both be carefully looked at. The symptoms must be listened to, because the symptom is simply the subconscious way of expressing that there is something wrong. The anxious person will often feel like they are on the edge of the seat, as they are apprehensive of what may happen next. They will feel nervous around superiors and authority, and will often avoid being the centre of attention. If the fear is deep-rooted, then success is mostly achieved by analytical methods, and the root cause of the problem should be looked at carefully. Fighting anxiety will usually make it stronger. Try to accept the anxiety, go with the flow. Muster up as much relaxation as you can, and keep doing what you want to do regardless. Only then will you find that it will slowly improve. Most of the people who I have seen as a therapist have to a greater or lesser extent suffered from levels of anxiety which have accompanied their problem. People have rational anxiety and irrational anxiety. Most rational anxiety is from normal concern in their everyday lives. Chronic anxiety is often linked with illness, but it can often be irrational fears, making the person think in terms of what might be, could be, and think it is. Anxiety which results in having panic attacks is often due to non-expression of fears. These fears internalize and show up as panic, often at the time for no apparent reason. Anxiety and depression are often not only the result of what we have been through in life, but are also about how people have reacted towards us in our lives. Deep emotions stir a thought, which increases the feeling. The feeling drives us in how we behave, and the emotions are what connects us to each other. We fill our minds from our beliefs of what the world we perceive around us. Our minds make sense of it, which in turn reacts through feelings. The way we feel inside interprets our behaviour, and therefore the behaviour of those around us. And how we behave to each other is how we learn. Long-term anxiety can trigger off repressed anxieties, which may be lying dormant in the person's subconscious mind. This can result in having numerous bouts of anxiety, and often, it seems, for no obvious reason. This can often lead to bouts of anxiety and depression, which can occur in cycles. If the subconscious mind feels that long-term we are not resolving the problem and anxiety is not enforcing this point upon us to deal with it, then it can begin to make us feel depressed. This is the subconscious mind's way of pushing in a different direction, to try to force us to resolve the situation. The longer we avoid resolving the problem, the worse the anxiety often will become. An auto-response to a stressor can easily trigger the person into a fight or flight response. The autonomic nervous system will then kick into action and force them to respond to the situation. This can be seen as flight when someone feels that they must escape a situation, or fight where the person feels that they must throw themselves into the situation. We have all felt this way at different times, and it is a natural part of our lives. The problem arrives when the person does not respond in a fight or flight mode and will often freeze. When repetitively freezing in a stressful situation, the person will become more anxious, and long-term problems such as phobias, obsessions, panic attacks, and other fear-based symptoms can become apparent. Freezing in a situation is when someone does nothing. They do not fight or flight. They simply allow the fear to overcome them. This is mainly a learnt behaviour, usually from childhood, and therefore can go back a long way into the person's past, which can then become a fixated way of dealing with their problems. In times of threat, the subconscious mind is able to override the rational conscious thinking and is able to produce anger or fear. In an emergency, it will take over completely and the fight or flight response will be engaged. It is instinctive and cannot be turned off by the conscious mind alone. Later, the subconscious mind will play back the trauma back to them, over and over again, making sure that the same mistake is not made again in the future. It will often play out this trauma in their dream state to warn them about future repetitions of what could happen. This is about keeping safe. And when the subconscious mind is content that they have got the message, then it will move its focus away again, which will give the person a temporary relief of the anxiety, leaving them in a numbness and silence. The sufferer can learn to let go of all these thoughts and feelings, but instead are often placing too much value on the situation and the symptoms. The sufferer must try to go with the feelings, to accept the anxiety, and to accept fully that this is who they are and how they feel. Never fight anxiety or give in to anxiety. Instead, go with the flow of it. No struggle, no fight. To fight it and dig your heels in will only make it worse. To give in to it and maybe stay in bed will only prolong the inevitable. To go with the anxiety and do everything that you would normally do in a day will slowly reduce it. This can be so difficult for some sufferers to understand and act upon, but at the same time, for some, it is the easiest thing in the world to do. Those who manage to do it can get immediate relief from all of their anxiety and depression, and give it no value in their mind or feelings. Muster up as much relaxation as you can. Just go with the flow and do everything you would normally do. No struggle, no fight. The Hypnotherapist Confessions by Antony Watkins.